Welcome back to the Forum 101 Excel tutorials. This second tutorial is about using equations. And what I have here is some of that data that we looked at in the first video example. And what I'd like to do now is calculate an average, which is your assignment for the week, of the two samples, and then use that average to calculate the Brinell hardness. And that's you can see the equation for the Brinell hardness is down here, and it's fairly complicated. It states that the Brinell hardness is the load P, which is always 3,000 kilograms from the machine, divided by pi d over 2, where d is the ball diameter, times the quantity d minus the square root of big D squared minus little d squared, where little d is the size of the indentation made by the big ball D being pressurized at 3,000 kilograms. So we need to do some work here. With the average, I'm going to show you what not to do for your homework because it doesn't work. I'm going to go equals average of the samples. And just to be goofy, I'll do this one a little differently. I'll say it equals the sum of the samples divided by the number of samples. And again, remember, click and hold the left mouse to select data. Right mouse button clicks, edit the data. So 4.1 and 4.64. By the way, both of these are wrong, because what you're supposed to do is remove the highest and the lowest pieces of data. And we haven't done that. And then divide through by the remaining pieces. And I give you a hint in the notes that you might want to use the max command. Here it is, let me show it to you. Equals max of the data. And I'll copy that over to the others to capture the 4140. And you'll notice that 4.8, yes, 4.8 is the biggest. 4.2 is the biggest there. And then maybe the min command. And it should be 4.0, right? Oh, look at that. And then I already showed you the count command. The counting of all those is 5. So maybe if you did something like count minus 2, you get 3. Yeah, that might work. Maybe not. Yeah, it will. So try that. So these two values are wrong, by the way, but that's okay. They're an average. They're an average of all 5, and that's not really how you're supposed to do it. We're supposed to toss the low and the high. But at least it shows you there was a nice hint for doing your homework. But nonetheless, let's write a formula to calculate the hardness based upon those two averages. And it's this formula here. So what I want to say is I want P. Okay, so I'm going to say it equals the value of P, which is right here. And then I divide by a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to need a bunch of parentheses here, so why don't I just start doing that. And I'll say pi, you need to put the parentheses in, times the quantity d over 2, d divided by 2, times the quantity d minus the square root of big D squared, and use the caret key, which is above the 6, minus little d, the thing that we actually averaged quantity squared. Now look what happens when I put in the right parenthesis. Do you see how it went purple and it highlighted both? Then I'll do it again. There's the green one, and there finally the black one. So that should work. That's that formula. Wow, that looks complicated, doesn't it? But sure enough, it gives me a value of 212.86. And then I say, well, gee, let's copy that over. Doesn't work. How come? Should have worked. I should have just taken this value, 4.64. Oh, it did. C3. C3. There's no C3. That's not B3. That's supposed to be P. That's supposed to be A3. Oh, something really wrong here. It got the E9 right. It went from D9 to E9. That worked. See, this one, D9. And I click over here, E9. Okay, that worked. Well, the trouble is in Excel, when you cut and paste, it cuts and pastes all the numbers with it. So it takes any number, and because I went to the right one column, it moved everything one column to the right. That's not what I wanted. Likewise, if I pasted down the row, it would move down the row. So the trick is to tell it, hey, this A3 never moves. And you do that using the dollar signs, which you know from your online tutorials. So I put the dollar in front of the A and the 3. And likewise, that B3 never moves either. So let's move it. And the D I leave alone because I want it to move. I want the D to move to the E when I copy the formula. This takes a little getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, you realize how powerful it is. So it looks like the same number, but now when I copy the formula over, see, I get a 167, much better. And that, in fact, it kept the A3, it kept the B3, and it moved the E9, which is exactly what I wanted. But you know what? That's wrong too. The Brinell hardness is a whole number, and you always round up or down to the nearest whole number. So that number should be 213. How could I do that? Well, I could right-click on it and go Format Cells, and Number, and go Number with 0 decimal places, and I get my 213. I'll do Control-Z and undo that. The other way I could do it is I could put it right here in the formula, which is how I like to do it, but you don't have to. I'm going to go round. In the round command, you put all the data in, and at the very end you go comma and the number of decimal places, 0. Close parenthesis, 213. And now when I copy that over, I get the 167 for the 4140 steel. This looks really complicated, but you notice that we build it up in steps. We did a little bit. We added in what was constant and not moving. We added the round command to give us the right number of decimal places. We did a bunch of stuff. Now again, I'm not describing these commands in total by any stretch of the imagination. Use the Microsoft help now that you know these commands: round, max, min, average, sum. And look at them. Look at the examples. It'll make it a lot clearer. You should be good to go for your homework now. Give it a go. Submit it. You're going to, right here in Blackboard, you can just hit the submit button in the assignment and upload the Excel file for Professor Crescetti or myself to look at.